Building performant applications on Adobe Commerce can be a daunting experience. In fact, it takes a tremendous amount of knowledge over a vast array of areas to be able to properly pull this off. In today's conversation, we're going to be looking at one very specific use case where we have a page loaded into full page cache, Varnish or Fastly, and then we need to real-time update information based off of some customer-specific variables. In this case, the example is a zip code, but it could be literally anything. It could even be the shopping cart or some rendition of it in one way or another. We're going to talk about some different options that are available for this, and we're going to choose one based off of what we feel like is the best answer. As always, your comments, your questions, drop those in the comments box below. We always appreciate hearing from you, and hey, that can help sharpen our skills as well. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel as well. Take a look at this question. You are developing an Adobe Commerce module to display real-time shipping estimates based off of the customer zip code. This is shown on the product details page for only logged in customers. You have determined that you need to create a new template and a view model for this. Keeping performance and efficiency in mind, how would you create a solution for this? Well, we have 3 different answers, and we're going to review those answers and then identify which one we think is the best solution. Now, remember, there is always going to be a very easy answer, and in this case, that easy answer is going to be A. Now, the easy answer is not always the best answer, but in some cases, it is. And so that's where it's really important that we really think through these solutions, because if a merchant only needs the easy answer, there is no reason at all to over-architect this. In some cases, that will work out okay, but in other cases, we definitely need to take the solution to be a little bit more complex to answer the requirements that are necessary. Now, then again, it is also very possible, and I consistently hear complaints from merchants about this, that the solution has been over-architected. So finding that middle balance, that middle ground, that balance is not easy. Let's take a look at these potential solutions here and see which one is the right one. You already know that A is not the right one because I said it was the easy solution, so I gave you a hint right there. Let's take a look at this. All right, A, disable the full page caching mechanism using the cacheable false and add estimation logic to the new view model. Now, we all know this is not a good answer to do, although unfortunately, I have seen it done. But I know that none of you watching this video would ever consider doing something like this unless it's literally on a customer account page or I guess a shopping cart page, but those have already been done. So in pretty much every other page, you pretty much can use full page caching. And we're even here at SwiftOtter, we're even getting into the realm of single page applications, bringing in React components into different places on pages, just because it is really good for performance. So all that aside, disabling the full page caching mechanism, as you guessed, is not a good idea. So let's take a look at option B. Create an API endpoint with a get type to fetch this for this specific zip code. Use JavaScript to integrate this into the front end. This actually sounds pretty reasonable. And one benefit of using the get type is that it actually can be cached. We can configure Varnish to actually cache this data, because then we're passing up information, whether it's the customer ID, not the customer ID. We might want to obfuscate that using like a customer hash or something like that. Actually, no, we wouldn't even want to do that. As I'm thinking this through, we want to pull the customer data from the Magento or the Adobe Commerce system, and then we can pass maybe that information up. There's some ways to work around that. We could obviously add information into that as necessary, but ultimately we want to keep that full page cache set. We do not want to touch that. We do not want to disable that, and so whatever way we can figure out to get around that is ideal. So in this case, create an API endpoint. Basically, this API endpoint will serve as the loading mechanism that will interact with this backend application to fetch these shipping rates for the specific zip code. So we could, again, probably leveraging the sections or the customer data information on the front end to get a zip code and pass it up. You could also technically utilize, depending on, consider this for performance, you could just let the session information carry through. However, this would be impacted by full page caching. You couldn't actually cache this API endpoint. So it probably would be best to pass up some type of identifying token inside this request query string. So then you literally could cache this request, make sure to set a correct lifetime on it. But you talk about snappy, that's it. Especially once this first load has happened, every time they come back to this product page, it's going to be super fast. And there might even be some other options for caching as well. If you were to set to push up uh, the the weight on the product, or even maybe somewhat normalize the weight, even then that now this would start applying to other products as well, similarly weighted products. There's a lot of opportunities to be able to make this more performant. But even at the basic level, if no other caching is established for this, simply extrapolating this out to an API endpoint allows us to keep full page caching enabled on our website, and as a result of that, we leverage huge performance benefits. Now, to help the overall load on the server, there's those couple extra steps that we can take by enabling full page caching on these API endpoint requests, using the zip code and perhaps maybe some type of normalized product weight. So to me, B sounds like a pretty viable option. Now we have C. Add a message queue system periodically fetching shipping estimates for logged in customers via a separate process, posting them to the queue to get the latest rates. Now, if there could be some scenarios in which this could work, but given the information that we have, I don't think this is an ideal option. A message queue system, which is unfortunately, per my experience, seems to be underutilized in the overall scheme of development projects that I have visibility into. Message queues are very helpful for pushing information off into the background. A case where this could be helpful is a modification of B, in that you have this message queue system behind an API endpoint, which this message queue then goes out and fetches these shipping rates. We have one of our customers, it takes 5 seconds per API request. Now we have those asynchronously queued up, so ultimately it's whatever the longest time to return a rate is, even though we trigger off usually about 6 requests, if I remember correctly, per call. It's still those 6 requests come out and back in about 5 seconds, as opposed to 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, stacking them on in the end asynchronously. It really does help speed things up. Now, depending on how things work, you could always trigger out a request, get a message queue like a bulk ID number back, trigger another request. And again, there's going to be some modifications needed to the whole bulk system to allow for this type of front end request, and then get the result at a later request or some later request. Something like that could work, especially if these are long-running processes and you just want to push them off to the back end. You don't want to actually be loading up your front-end web server with this type of request. So that could work, but I just don't see how this is going to fit into this type of a situation. So with all of that said, all we have to do is take a look right here, and we see the correct answer, which is B. I think architecturally speaking, this is the most sound answer for Adobe Commerce. And I hope that you found this video beneficial as we delve into how to ensure that full page caching remains enabled, but we are able to inject rich, dynamic content into the front end for our customers. Keep up the great work. Look forward to another question coming out next week.